I am going to attempt to encapsulate what came out of the Northeast Asia meeting in Seoul about 11 months ago that was chaired by Ambassador Han Sang-ju. At the time of that meeting, the Ambassador Han and the individuals who participated in the discussion talked about what Ambassador Ko initially said in his remarks about how the last administration strengthened the U.S.-Japan alliance, stabilized its relations with China, and after missteps initially, that it began to get policy towards North Korea on a better track. Though unfortunately, that there wasn't enough time for this the last administration to be able to finish after spending a number of years in working on the issues related to the Korean Peninsula that was viewed in a counterproductive fashion. I'm going to share, I guess, maybe some sound bites of the Northeast Asia section of the report. First and foremost, in Ambassador Han's mind, was that the United States needs to keep an even keel in its relations with China. It shouldn't repeat the patterns of previous administrations that frequently started out on China relations in a rocky way, only to improve them later on, such as remarks such as coddling of dictators that was mentioned in the Clinton in the campaign when President Clinton was running for president back in 1992, or strategic, identifying China as a strategic competitor. And he says that the United States should take advantage of China's declared intention not to upset the status quo and maintain good relations with the United States. Secondly, and I think that this is certainly this has been evidenced in the past week or so. The United States should pay more attention to Asia and give more weight to its relations with the region. Ambassador Ko said that the Secretary of State Clinton's speech last week in New York, now with her trip there, showing that traditionally the Secretary of State has gone to either Europe or the Middle East first, and now is going to Asia first, and that is a very positive signal, despite the enormous foreign policy challenges outlined by Professor Mohan about with Pakistan and Afghanistan and instability there, but also challenges related to Iran and Iraq. And now that he felt at the time that he made these comments, but he corrected now that the economic crisis has become the predominant issue for the incoming president, there's a distinct possibility of Asia being assigned a lower priority. And at least initially in the first month of the Obama administration, that doesn't seem to be the case. Major concern in the meeting last year, and I think that still exists today, is that he called for the United States to resist protectionist temptations and support trade liberalization. He said that the United States should ratify FTAs, particularly the U.S.-Korea free trade agreement, and vigorously negotiate other FTAs, both bilateral and multilateral. I think that in probably negotiating FTAs, in my own personal view, is that that is going to be hopefully be able to do it with the U.S.-Korea FTA, but to negotiate new ones, I think, is going to be very challenging given the unprecedented economic challenges the United States and indeed the world is facing in the past, more so than in the past 75 years. The stimulus package that was recently passed by the Congress taught there was a Buy America clause, but if you look at the Obama administration was able to put in language that said that the language should not contravene any prior agreements made by the United States. In other words, that whatever clause there may be in talking about wanting to buy products that are from the United States or only from the United States, that these regulations not contravene our commitments to the World Trade Organization nor to the North America Free Trade Agreement. And so despite the campaign rhetoric of both then Senator Obama and Senator Clinton, they seem to be not changing a different course on that, not necessarily becoming all of a sudden free traders, but not also exuding the protectionist sentiments that might have been articulated in the campaign. Though I don't think it should be lost that those protectionist sentiments in the United States are strong. The fourth is the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction should be a major diplomatic goal of the United States. Regarding the North Korean nuclear program, the next administration would be well advised to continue with the North Korea policy espoused by the Bush administration since the spring of 2007. The United States should revive and strengthen nuclear non-proliferation treaty system, which believes has been weakened by several developments, including the increased number of de facto nuclear weapon states. Fifth, the U.S. administration he urges it to pay more attention to human security or non-traditional security issues, such as the environment, especially global warming, energy security, humanitarian issues, and encompassed in that would be the trafficking of human beings, narcotics, and I think what's also important to Singapore is maritime security. Sixth, the United States should place greater emphasis on soft power and public diplomacy, thereby putting greater weight on persuasive rather than coherent capabilities. And this is something that Ambassador Koh has advocated for very strongly, not only in this project, but also when he served as chair of the America's Role in Asia project in 2004. And seventh, the U.S. should continue to make efforts to spread democratic values and enhance human rights. At the same time, he calls for the United States to set a good example by upholding the very values that America espouses. He says that there is some good news and bad news. He thinks, first, that the U.S.-China relations are unstable and in good shape. He says a major potential source of friction is the Taiwan issue, though it has become less troublesome with the election of Ma Ying-jeou, who favors reconciliation and cooperation with China. He also credits both the United States and China working together as they are in the, quote, in the same boat in terms of trade, finance, investment, so they have to work cooperatively to help each other out. China also wants to play the role, or at least of becoming a responsible stakeholder in the international community. And the United States is hopeful that this is indeed the case. He feels that relations with the United States and virtually all the countries of the Asia Pacific, we save Myanmar and certainly the difficulties that North Korea always poses, that the government-to-government relations are quite strong, though it might be those countries, Asian countries' populations that have a problem with the United States. But this was said back in December when we had the release of the America's Role in Asia reports in Seoul. And I think that by and large, at least throughout my travels in Asia, this is my third trip in the last 2 months to Southeast Asia, South Asia, and to China. And I think there's a genuine enthusiasm about President Obama and the change in mindset. And now the question will be to see how is this change in mindset turned into effective policies towards the Asia Pacific region. He believes that, as mentions that President Obama will have a high degree of goodwill, and I believe that is indeed the case. He talks about the power shift taking place in the sense of what Fareed Zakaria calls the end of Pax Americana in his most recent book, and the power shift is the result of America lagging behind the rest of the world, including but especially China. The last 8 years were perhaps the most critical, as the Bush administration, in Dr. Hahn's view, squandered U.S. resources and goodwill. He's not sure whether the current financial crisis represents a final death knell for Pax Americana or an alarm bell that will wake up America and convince it to shape up. And so, in other words, will likely not be as strong a country, but doesn't necessarily mean we will be insignificant in world affairs. He called for President Obama to accomplish the four following things: give greater weight to multilateralism, or at least consensus-seeking rather than unilateralism, to emphasize soft power relative to hard power, to give more weight to human security issues relative to the traditional state security issues, and four, to place greater emphasis on a concert of powers or a coalition of common interests relative to traditional alliances. Seen in this light, giving up the idea of Pax Americana may prove to be a blessing in disguise. He believes it frees the United States from preoccupation of trying to maintain a hegemonic position. It also encourages, in fact, compels the United States to work with other countries in a cooperative fashion. He feels a piece of bad news is that he doesn't believe that North Korea is likely to follow through with complete denuclearization or even a partial denuclearization anytime soon. He thinks that the current six-party process may even be more turbulent in the future. The infirmity of North Korean leader Kim Jong-il may prove to be a positive factor in the longer run, though changing the status quo on the Korean Peninsula. However, in the immediate to short term, it's likely, he believes it will be a negative factor for provoking a breakthrough and radical change in both the nuclear issue and the North Korean situation generally. To conclude, he said that given all the factors, his recommendation to President Obama is that in pursuing Asia policy, the U.S. should heed what he describes as the Goldilocks dictum, to seek a golden mean and balance, not too hot, not too cold, not too hard, not too soft. In other words, Asia does not want the United States to pay too little attention to Asia, but it cannot be eager enough to resolve difficult issues such as the North Korea nuclear problem in one fell sweep. For instance, by demanding more for more deal. He wants the United States to promote the multilateralism and the concert of powers, but not at the expense of weakening alliances. He wants the U.S. to emphasize soft power, but by not weakening hard power. He wants the U.S. to improve relations with North Korea, but not in such a way that North Korea feels that its status as a nuclear weapon state has been accepted, or that it can engage the U.S. while closing out relations with South Korea. He says this is going to be a very difficult balance to achieve. He once talked about his expectations and hope that the incoming Obama administration would act in accordance with what he calls his 3 C's: confidence, competence, and composure. And he says, but there is a need for a 4th C, and that is consultation. So with that said, I will end my remarks on behalf of Dr. Hahn and invite Ambassador Roy to make his comments. Thank you.